Uh,
Okay, welcome everyone to episode 6 of Lawyers Uncharted with me, Lisa. Yeah, if you guys probably know me from LinkedIn. If you haven't, then you've probably been under a rock somewhere for the last 5 years. And my whole aim with my podcast is to let law students know that you can charter your own course and that because we are individuals and we come from different backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, all of those things that it's not reasonable to expect your journey to be the same as everyone else. And some of the best minds and the most influential people that we know didn't have the straightest of paths. In fact, they probably would testify to a lot of failure along the way. And that is part of your journey. So we want to break or we want to shatter the myth that there's a certain one traditional way to do things in law. And then if you fail at it, that means there's nothing else you can do. And um, even if you're in law or you're thinking of getting into it and you're studying it, but you feel that the traditional career is not for you, then maybe today's episode is what you need to chart a different course in the profession. So today's guest, and not the first Zambian guest, so I'm very happy to have our second Zambian guest. My first one was,
Namibian,
sorry,
Namibian
sorry,
guest.
sorry, my bad. I know where I got that from. Yeah, Namibian. We've had one Zambian guest, so I guess you're still in the stats in terms of your first Namibian guest, so across the border. Um, and yeah, making waves, making changes. I sort of admired from afar, and I think you've been partnering with some local people as well. And so you're gonna Fedden Mukwata. Um, I'm not gonna introduce for fear of leaving anything out. I'm
Mm,
gonna let him give a proper introduction, but he is a powerhouse in Namibia, and I'm very supportive of African talent. I think most of the time we look to Europe, we look to America, but I think there's so much we can harness in Africa. There's so much of talent, and we can use it for African people. We don't have to borrow all the time and, even export our stuff. We can keep it in-house. And so I'm very excited to have a fellow continental person here just across the border. Um, and yeah, so he's gonna give you his journey and tell you how he got to where he's got to. And I'm sure he's not arrived at where he is now. I'm sure I'd like to think it's a continuous evolution, always
yes.
pushing the boundaries, pushing the envelopes.
Mm,
So you don't want to present people that you think that have it all together. They might be also in a stage of growth, in a stage of progress, and that's where you need to be as a professional person.
mm.
So without further ado, um, take it away, Fedden.
Thank you, Lisa, for this opportunity. Um, as Lisa said, my name is Fedden Mainga Mukwata. From Namibia, hailing from the Zambezi region, which is bordering Zambia. So I can understand the the comparison there. We are right across the Zambezi River, which is just dividing Namibia and Zambia. So we speak the same language with the people immediately across the border, which is Silozi, similar to Sutu in Sepedi and Tswana. So yeah, I'm not offended at all. Say from Zambia. Yeah. So yes, I'm a legal practitioner of the High Court and Supreme Court of Namibia. I'm also a mediator and notary public, but not active in the notarial area of practice. I enrolled at the University of Namibia in 2007. I was 17 years old at the time, probably the youngest. And yeah, we had a 5-year program then. One is a 3-year B Juris degree, which I obtained, and then I proceeded to do the LLB for 2 years. So I hold two degrees, two law degrees. I've not went on to do a master's or a doctorate, so I'm just still a degree holder. But post graduating in 2011, I immediately enrolled for the Justice Training Center, which is the legal practitioners qualifying program for you to be admitted. That was in 2012. Of course, it requires you to do your articles. I had to be attached to a law firm. I literally went to town with my CV, knocked at any law firm and asked if they were looking for a candidate. And one old man said, when can you start? And I said, and I think that was my second knock. Then I said, I can start tomorrow. I said, no, I don't have a table and everything. As long as there's a computer, I'm good to go. Even if I sit at reception, I'm good to go. And that's how it started. That's how it started, really. I showed up the following day. I signed my articles agreement, sent it to the Law Society of Namibia, and I was a cadent legal practitioner. That was in 2000. That was in 2012. I did, of course, the practicals and the classes in the evenings. As candidates, there's an issue that we all know probably is also in South Africa about pay. The salaries are very low. I think I was earning about 2,000 Namibian dollars, which is similar to, our money is the same. So Namibian dollars is the same as rand. So that's what I was earning at the time. Renting a room of about 1.5, and you have to go to court, you have to arrange dates for your boss. But yeah, we believed then that you have to sacrifice in order to get in this profession. So I said, look, I'm going to go through it and get it over and done with. And then later on, the money will come. We believe that when you get admitted, the money will come. So I did that in 2012. 2013, I had two modules that I didn't write. I deferred, so I repeated two modules in 2013 and I changed law firms at the new law firm where I was. And now, around September, there we get our right of audience, meaning now you can appear in the magistrate's court and other tribunals. So you start to become an asset to law firm owners at the point. So at that time, I got a job at one other law firm, which had an office somewhere in the northeastern part of Namibia. I was in Windhoek at the time, and I had to go there because no one was willing, for the admitted guys who were at the firm, no one was willing to go and stay there because it's one of those small towns, and there was a lot of legal aid instructions, criminal matters basically. I said, give me the job. I went. It's even closer to my hometown, so it's about 500 kilometers from my hometown. So I got to do cases in that area, in that town, and also the other towns nearby. So it was quite exciting, but it's one of those things where you are thrown in the deep end of things. Nobody is teaching you the ropes. I think the first day I arrived at that town, at that office, I was told there's a case that is on the road. So I had to just go meet meet the prosecutors, meet the magistrates, meet everybody. Lucky me, one of my former classmates who had dropped out at big jury stage, she went to prosecute. She was the prosecutor there. So, we reconnected and, luckily we didn't do a trial on that day. We postponed the case and then we said, look, come back. Your firm has a lot of cases here. You need to find out when all these cases are coming back in court. And then we can start. So I spent the whole of 2013 in that town. It's called Rundu. And then I did write the modules. I passed. And then I started working on my admission. So in 2014, around May, I moved back to Windhoek to just come and concentrate on my admission. Because you'd have to do the application and all these things, get your diary signed off. And yeah, it's better to do it yourself. So I came back to Windhoek in 2014 and I did my admission. And in August, I was admitted. And then I moved from criminal law to civil because I'm not really a criminal law person. I like to draft, I like to read, and I like to formulate arguments and read case law. So I found myself doing all the civil matters in our firm. And, I quite loved it. And at the time, the new rules of the High Court of Namibia actually were passed that year. So we were one of the practitioners that time who got to learn the rules, the practice of the new rules as they were being, introduced. So it's something that has stuck with me that it can get away because you are almost like learning with the bench also. We're helping each other. So it was quite a good time to practice law. So fast forward to about 2017, somewhere there, I decided to make a move from practice. So I practiced for about 4 years from 2014 post-admission. And then after that, around 2017 or so, I joined the Office of the Judiciary, which is the office that deals with obviously all the judicial officers and the High Court, the Supreme Court, and the lower courts. So I was appointed as a senior legal officer, which they call judge assistant, judge researchers, those guys who sit in front there with the judge. So I was appointed one of the judge's research assistants. And again, I moved. I moved to the north again to a town called Oshakati, which is in the north, somewhere there near Angola. So that's where I moved, and I was assigned to one of the judges in the civil stream. I worked there for about 2 years. I really enjoyed working under the judges because then I discovered, my love for case law, because now you got to develop, case law. You get to summarize facts for the judges. You have to deal with the lawyers. It was exciting because you are there in the thick of things with the judge when he's deciding. So it really cemented my love for case law. I think if you follow me, you would see that I really have a thing for case law. And it's because of that experience, really. So after 2 years, one of my friends had sent me an advert and said, the Social Security Commission of Namibia is looking for legal officers. I applied, came for interviews, and in 2019, April 2019, or before that, I got a letter that, I was successful. So I left the judiciary and then I joined the corporate world now. So I joined as a legal officer in 2019. And in May 2021, 2022, I was promoted to legal advisor. And that is the position I'm having currently at the Social Security Commission of Namibia. It is a public entity, but of course it's run, or it's governed by pieces of legislation. So I'm still very much part of government or civil or public service, but of course under the corporate, with more corporate and governance area of things. It's not a private company, so you would understand that we are still applying procurement laws, labor laws with the employment issues. Yeah, that is my official story, my official positions. Yes, somewhere in 2022, I made some life-changing decisions, and and I tried to say, what is it that I can do different? Because a lot of people were saying, oh, open a law firm, why don't you go and do pupillage, you become an advocate, or why don't you be a magistrate? And I said, I don't think I want to open a law firm. I practiced law for some time, you know, involved in some, groundbreaking cases here and there. I don't think I want to go there. I want something different. But what could it be? I mean, what else do lawyers do? You guys just go to court and argue. I said, no, I've had this feeling, I have had this idea before, but I never really got a chance to do it. So I went to our BIPA, we call it BIPA, Business Registration Institute, or yeah, our Business Registration Institute. I registered the closed corporation. We still have closed corporations in Namibia. I understand you don't have them in SA anymore. So I registered a CC, basically called FAS Legal Consultancy. And FAS Legal Consultancy, the idea there was that, look, how about I serve both the public and the lawyers? I provide services that are relevant to lawyers, and they're also at the same time relevant to the public. And what can it be? Of course, legal education, legal information, dissemination of legal information. In the case law that I do, the articles that I do them under FAS Legal Consultancy. Legal technology. This is where now you try, first it was to evangelize that, look, as lawyers, we also need to embrace technology. And it simply starts with social media. Most law firms don't have social media. They would open a Facebook page and just leave it. Some people would be posting, asking questions, asking for numbers, and nobody responds. They don't have connections beyond Namibia. For LinkedIn, for example, is a very good platform where you could link with other lawyers in other jurisdictions, because sometimes you find a person who says, somebody robbed me in SA, they asked for money, I bought a car in India or wherever, and I don't know how to sue them, and they come to you as a lawyer, and you don't even know one person, even in South Africa, one lawyer in South Africa that you can correspond with to take up that case for your client. So I try to evangelize as much as possible to say, look, let's start at the basic, just let us manage your social media. Let us open your social media pages and manage them for you. Let us get you a website, a nice responsive website that somebody can go to and find out more about your firm. So that was the legal technology aspect. And of course, there are other projects that I'm still working on that you might have seen. I've been collaborating with Luis, for example, in terms of case law, making case law more available. I think in the near future, you will see some of those things coming up. With technology, you have to be patient and it takes long. And then, of course, I also opened I think inspired by you, Lisa, I opened another CC called Lex Academy Namibia, which is really, I thought, legal education. Let me specialize in legal education, tutoring students, but I added training as well. But this training focuses mostly on non-lawyers, because I realized that a lot of people, CEOs and everybody, there's no one who doesn't apply law. some people go to get positions where they are required to know the law and they don't understand the terminology. So we thought for those non-lawyers who want to understand the law better so that they can do their job better and not, seek advice all the time and pay a lot of money for simple things like, procurement contracts. How do you enter into them and all these things? Let's try to give training to some of these people. And so that was the training aspect of it. And I also thought, for newly appointed people, graduates, you might not get the grasp of your job description from the start. I've seen candidates who struggle to write letters of demand because write a letter of demand. So we thought, let me also just offer that to newly appointed graduates, law graduates, to just help them to assimilate and smoothly transition into the work environment. And the other service was to do placement, to say, how about we be a conduit of, because remember, through the legal education, you get to meet students, you teach them, you tutor them, they graduate, and now they don't know where to go, you know. So I thought of, creating this pipeline where you say you hold their hands from from university days, you help them transition when they get jobs, or rather you help them get placement, get some internship or candidacy or whatever. And then once they are there, you also help them to transition into the job environment so that they don't get fired. Because the thing is, candidates get fired for very, small things. You know, before you get admitted, you would have moved around two, three, five law firms because you couldn't do what the boss says is expected of you. And no one is really there for these students, No one is there for these students. They just go there. Like I said, my story, we had that I went there alone, it's a faraway town, and I had to do criminal cases there, without supervision, basically, without, you know, a direct person that you can talk to face to face. You have to call all the time, and the bosses are not always available. So you have to, and when you're in court before that magistrate, he's not going to give you a break and say, go and consult. You have to, you have to do it right there and then, and the client is watching as well. So it, it's it's better that we create these opportunities for the new guys now. So that is my private work that I do, and I call it passion projects because it's not really paid, you know, except for sometimes when you do a few consultancy here and there, and the management of social media websites and all that. I had to also teach myself to do, to get a few qualifications in marketing, social media management, and a lot of, IT stuff like graphic design, website, back end website, all these things. I had to self-teach myself. And, when I started looking, I really found institutions that offer these things. And I would really want to encourage law students or lawyers in general to diversify their skills, because it's not all about courtroom. It's not all about the courtroom and arguing and writing letters and summons and all these things. There's a lot more that lawyers can do, and it's one of the things that I'm busy advocating for. That's why my mission, which my motto or so, is really to educate the nation, transform the profession, and inspire the next generation, because I think it captures all that I do. So at the same time, you are empowering people, the general public, about legal stuff. And then you are also showing the profession that, look, you can be more than the courtroom or the office where you sit as a legal advisor or legal officer. And then at the same time, you're also telling the students that these are the different ways in which you can go once you graduate. So because the impact that you can give on the general, to the nation or the world, it's not only in the courtroom. It's basically when you're out there dealing with people directly, sometimes without pay. I think that's where the impact is really going to be felt. So I continue doing that. And I think now this year, really, I've been trying to move to writing. I have a couple of books that I'm working on. You might have seen that I'm not very much active in terms of the case law and all that. I'm moving on to projects that are much bigger, that will have long-lasting impacts, to record really all these things that I've been doing so that there's a permanent record somewhere there, that even when one is gone from this world, there is a testimony that people can grab and read and see what has happened. So I'm involved in such projects, and um, a bit of international engagements like this one. I was with Fire, which is from Uganda, where we're doing some. I was part of the judges of the moot court there, and yeah, it's really. I'm telling myself that show up for the legal profession. I think the other week in June, in May or so, I participated in the wellness endeavor, employee wellness endeavor, where I was basically speaking about wellness in the legal profession, which is something that we also don't talk about as lawyers. And what I discovered there is that, look, it really starts with the students. If we don't take care of the students, their wellness, their well-being is already, they are in for a setup. You know, we are exposed to so much stress early on in the legal profession, and we don't seek help. We don't talk about it. We want to be heroes, but at the end of the day, it gets to you. You find a lot of substance abuse at the end of the day. You find a lot of, sometimes there's no statistics to say some suicides are related to this, but you can make the link. You find a lot of closures of law firms, you find a lot of movement, people hopping from this job to that job, So we interrogated the issue, and it was really insightful. But as usual, none of the colleagues showed up. As much as I advertised that to say, look, I would want to see lawyers coming here and listen. But I think the conversation has started. The next thing is really to just get everybody through the Law Society or other relevant institutions to talk about wellness in the legal profession, because it is a live issue, very serious issue that we are facing. So I'm trying to show up for the legal profession this year as much as I can, and see what happens. So I think that's my story.
Not to sound vain, but it's like I'm listening to my own story. God's fingers in so many, like you're saying, you want to show up for the profession.
Mm,
And of course, the problems are multifaceted, you know.
yes.
And another common point I found was some of the stuff is unpaid. So I
Definitely.
know, I know people, I know like the common misconception to get into the legal field is, oh, you're gonna get paid well. You're gonna earn a lot of money. But truth be told, like you said, it has to match with where the people are. So sometimes the people they can't pay you, or they can't pay you as much as somebody who can afford it. So you gotta ask, why am I in this field? I always say if you can't explain dialect, or some people call it tots, right? Tots. If you can't explain that to your granny,
Mm.
okay, your knowledge is not relevant to that.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's not just about the courtroom, and I think a lot of that courtroom image is a very academic perception. Because
Mm.
even though you're there, you're on the ground, you're sort of arguing, you can see everybody. The judge is there, and there's papers, but it's a very academic representation. I think people get attracted to that academic side of man.
Mm.
Getting into the courtroom is how I'm going to help people. But
Mm.
as you rightly pointed out, there's so besides clients now, you need to help students, you need to help candidate attorneys, you need to help um, CEOs who need to know legal stuff, and you need to
Mm.
educate the public.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at your role as a lawyer, and throwing this one out to provoke some critical thinking, the way you help as a lawyer, you'll soon discover, is multifaceted. You're not just
Yeah.
legal matters.
It
Okay?
cut across.
You need to educate the public. You need to
Mm.
educate, like you said, show up for the young ones, mentor them, bring
Mm.
them up. You need to talk to your colleagues about mental health. That is helping.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
not, I mean, the legal knowledge, yeah, okay. It doesn't change that much. It hasn't changed
Mm.
since I was at university. I don't know about in Namibia. I mean, the theory is
No,
still the
it's
same. The case law might, make some nuance changes here and there, but the principles remain the same. So
yeah,
you got to
yeah.
say, look, if I really want to add value with my degree, and I want to add value, and I enter this profession, hopefully not just to make money, but to help people, then how can I extend it beyond my firm? How can I extend it beyond the courtroom? And I found myself coming to that same juncture where I started my academy, and then all
Mm.
of these side projects that are unpaid to help students. And of course, getting involved with outside stakeholders, outside institutions in legal education, also trying to do some digital resources. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
And I think besides looking at the various other spheres that you can be of help with your legal training, I think what I picked up when you spoke about your books now,
Mm.
it's also about legacy,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it's like, and when I mentor people, I say you either want the profession to happen to you, or you want to happen to the profession.
Yes.
Okay. So, and a lot of them, like I said at the outset, they kind of get carried along by the tide. And
Mm.
and then when it doesn't work out in the way that university said it's going to work
It
out, then we
will.
have all
Mm.
kinds of depression, and woe is me, and did I make the right sacrifices, and why did I even do law? You get all of those questions, which are very
Mm.
legitimate. But if you had been thinking intentionally and you said, look, what if even if it's in the smallest way that I know how with my skill set, can I leave a mark?
Mm.
Can I leave something that after Lisa has gone, after Fedden's gone, there's legacy. The thing carries on. It's not just was for building a brand, or for promoting a business, or for making money. It's you wanted to leave a stamp on the
Yeah.
profession. And I think, yeah, in this today's Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I don't know what comes after that. What's the latest one? But
Yeah, no.
there's a lot of short-term thinking.
Yes.
So I mean, if you could take yourself back to when you went to work in that town unsupervised. I
Mm.
mean, what was your thought process? Were you thinking in the moment? Were you thinking in the long term? And also speak to maybe that mindset today that wants instant gratification,
Mm.
that it's better to He come into this field and leave a legacy rather than quick fame or quick money.
Mm. Yeah, you see, when we were growing up, I think I didn't decide to be a lawyer until somewhere in matric. Before that, and I'm saying this in one of the books that I'm writing because I call it lost. It's my lost story because it's blending how I grew up and how that is becoming relevant now. I think when I was young, I had the neck for order and all these things. I could. I really didn't like people who took advantage of others. And, I had this thing of like, something must happen. But I don't think I ever understood what that was. And then, you go through school, then matric, you start seeing people who are working now. And then you ask yourself, what is that? What is that one? What is his job? What is a job? Then he's a lawyer. Wow, he's driving. Every time he comes for holiday, he's having, nice cars. I have an uncle who's a lawyer. He's an advocate now, and he really inspired me. I always tell him that he inspired me. But what really inspired me is the cars he used to drive, and I thought I want to be that. And the thing is, I got. I passed matric with very high points, and getting in university was into law school was that kind of it required you to have a lot of, to have got a lot of points in grade 12. So I thought everything, matches, let me go and do law, you know. But after that, you started seeing other things now and say, okay, but I'm not necessarily getting the money. When do I get the money? Then you realize that, you have to make partner, it's either you open your law firm, you build a reputation, you work insane hours, or you make partner, you become a director in your law firm and all that. And then maybe you can get the money. The thing is, you see the fees that you write, you see the fees that are coming through in the law firm, but you are not getting what you think, what would put you on those on that level that you used to see. So you realize at the end of the day that you are just another employee, who is faced with the same issues that any other employee is facing, and running a law firm is really a business. It's a business. It needs you to be able to come to the party, run it like a business and make money. But you have to pay a lot of things as well. So is it sustainable? Is it something that I wanted to do? At the end of the day, I thought, no, I don't think I want to open a law firm, you know. But at the end of the day, it has its advantages as well. The thing is, when you are in a small town like where I was, it's a you get noticed so easily. Oh, he's the lawyer. I think we were only two lawyers in that town at the time, one black, one white. It was that dynamic. Those are the dynamics. So the population notices you, and it's a small town. Everybody knows you. You know, they want to be with you. They want to hang with you. You know, and sometimes you make some good money. Your boss feels that you deserve a better commission, and then some funds come in that you did not expect. So there's that flexibility that you get access to money at the end of the day. And the question is, what do you do with it? You know? And I think at that stage, I was not thinking of building things that time. I was like, it was like, let me live up to the to the reputation of lawyers who, you have a nice life, you are renting in, you are living at the nicest part of town. I was young, you have a party every weekend and all these things. So it was more of instant gratification and than long term. But of course, you have to go out there and, win those cases. And I think that time you are thinking about winning the case. I need to get my client out, you know. So it's only much later that I realized that, okay, what is it that I need to do with myself as a lawyer, you know? After all the that gratification has come and gone, because you can't be satisfied over the same thing all over and over and over. You get full. There's the point when you feel that it's not satisfying me anymore. What is it that I need to do to satisfy myself? And I think that little voice, those little plans that you have always had, that probably this is not my space. My space is here, you know. Somebody told me that, but you always used to mention this thing. And it took you so many years to do it, you know. And then, yeah, I realized much later that this is what I need to do. Somebody said, you know, a niche. You need to create a niche in order to be, wealth is created by in niches. If you develop a niche, you can create wealth, but that wealth might not be might not be monetary. It might be a legacy that you are building, you know. It might be a reputation that you are building to say he is known for this. And when you get involved in other things, people, your reputation will precede you, and then it will go and speak on your behalf. People will speak about you in rooms that you are not, because of the niche that you have developed. And I think I've noticed a lot of people now have started doing things on their own in terms of, getting the word out there, legal education. There are many lawyers now who have now started also, even on TikTok, posting videos, explaining things and stuff like that. So I'm really happy with the progress that I've seen, especially at the University of Namibia. The student organizations that are there, they are really active. Working with them closely. One of the student organization actually chose me to be their patron this year. And we had some successful events that we hosted early in the year, you know, because of what I do. And it's of course not a paid thing, but it satisfies me as a person to be able to do these things. I'm comfortable with the work I do at losses at the Social Security Commission. I think I can survive with that. But what do I do with the rest of my time? This is where I'm focusing on these other extra activities. We are busy, me and a couple of other tutors, we are busy organizing a free mass tutorial day where we want to just invite, students, and we just give them tutorials on specific topics which they are finding difficult to pass or to understand. And then just to give back and give back and give back to society in ways that, we never thought of traditionally as lawyers, because we want to put the coin before. You must put the coin in the purse before I do anything for you. But let's do things first and then maybe get the coin later, you know.
Mm. Yeah, I think sometimes our compassion can get us into a bit of trouble sometimes. But we take the blows because we want to help, right? So um yeah, I think they might have heard what you're not saying there, which is enjoy yourself
Yeah.
and then find your niche.
Yeah,
Look,
no,
some of them have to have, no matter how many people speak to that, temporary nature of the money and buying what you want, it comes to an end eventually. And no matter how many people speak to that, people still find, because I mean, you got to look at, what kind of background you're raised in, whether you were poor, you want to buy the stuff that you always wanted. And we're not saying don't enjoy yourself, but as you were saying now, Fedden, you got to see when all the court stuff is said and done, is there a certain kind of a restlessness that, man, I have more to offer. I have and I want to be of assistance. I want to help. Um, and so you start to think, okay, I've bought everything I wanted to buy. I need to start thinking beyond myself, you know?
mm,
So like you said, the job is, you can survive on the job. It's important to have a day job.
mm.
You know, but then there's stuff that you just, it makes you restless. I know I feel that way. I
Yeah.
would never be satisfied with sitting in an office or um even just being like a regular housewife or whatever. Like I have a lot more, even what
Yeah.
I'm doing now. I'm sure you would say the same. You feel like you can do more. You feel like there's still
Mm.
stuff in you that you need to tap and you need to
Yeah.
discover and that you need to offer.
Mm,
Um, so even like I said at the outset, I've not arrived, and he hasn't arrived. We're just sort of going with how we see the profession, the state of the profession in our respective countries. And we're like, okay, I've got my day job, but there's something else I need to do, something I need to see beyond my
mm.
own progression and my own comfort. And so, I mean, if that's you, then, hopefully this episode was provocative,
Mm.
because as much as, we could talk about planning for your career, there's so much of stuff that you can do within the profession to just be
And not to cut you, Lisa, I think one other thing that people don't realize is that as a lawyer, you need to be an all-rounded person. You need to
absolutely.
know so much. So I always say that you need to create a continuous learning loop for yourself because most of the things that I do in my private capacity, they actually help me to perform my job, my day job better. Because I feel that if I'm closed in this office, I'll miss out so much,
Mm,
I'll
mm,
miss out so much. And being in the in social security environment, we are dealing with people. We are dealing with pregnant mothers, sick people, disabled people. It becomes more that you need to be more compassionate. You need to have a human
mm,
face. You need to you,
mm,
you need to be human centered because, and where do I get that? I get that mostly from the private engagements that I have with people. And when I bring it here, I'm able to give that legal opinion with a human touch,
yeah,
just to be able to say this person needs that benefit. And, it helps me, I think, become a better legal advisor. If I was
absolutely.
not doing that, so I just make it a continuous learning loop for myself.
Yeah, I think that's very important to emphasize that we do what we do not for the sake of it or to promote ourselves, but deep down, we want everything to join. We want the dots to join.
Yes,
We want one
yes.
thing to feed the other, and one thing must enhance the other thing. So it all comes together. You look at the
Mm,
brand of Fedden, you're like, oh, he's not just doing random things, but one thing influences, enhances the other,
most
So
definitely.
yeah, so I think that's a because I know, and I think we can land the plane on this point, is that law students,
Mm.
they can sign on for anything and everything because they don't know
Uh,
how to sit still, in my opinion. So they will sign for vacation work, they will sign for job shadowing. And I ask, what is the objective? Why do you want to do that?
mm, mm,
I don't want to sit at home and waste time. It's not good enough. Okay.
mm, mm,
You've got to
mm,
be intentional. And like I said, one thing you have to say, okay, I'm doing job shadowing because I want to see, for example, how lawyers do it in real life, whatever the objective is, but it
mm.
has to enhance you. You can't just do it because you
Yeah.
want a
What?
certificate,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
it needs to lead somewhere. It needs to
Yeah,
lead somewhere.
exactly. And if it means that you go to do job shadowing because um maybe one day you want to offer job sharing, you want to open a firm and you want to know what
mm,
you want to offer that service to students one day. Then that's a long-term goal for you, right? But
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's gonna lead something. So guys, hopefully this episode, I think it was very, very practical and
Mm,
I enjoyed it because a lot of the things echoed my own experience. So I can
mm.
definitely identify it with the heart and how things just, you just take on these projects and then you find time in your calendar afterwards.
Yeah, you make somebody asked me, how do you do it? I said, I make the time. I make
Yeah,
the time
yeah,
because there's no time, but you have to make it.
have to make it. Yeah. Again, it's about thinking beyond yourself, right?
Yeah.
And wanting to leave a legacy, wanting to make a difference.
Mm,
And most importantly, how I started my whole thing is just wanting to help. And
mm,
then, of
mm,
course,
mm,
as the years
mm.
go on, you sort of define ways that
Yeah,
starts to get more definition. Okay, what are the ways in which you can help? So we don't just help generally, so obviously then that means that we end up starting all these initiatives and then,
yeah. No, no,
we've got lots of
it's
irons in
good.
the fire. So thanks, Fedden, for your time. I appreciate it. And guys, you can reach out to him on LinkedIn and you got a website. You got a website?
Yes, I do have a website.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah. When I'm putting it
Then
on,
maybe
when I upload to
yes,
YouTube, then I'll put all that in the notes.
yes. I'll
Okay.
send you the website and all the other handles, social media handles. Then you can just plug them in.
Okay. And I think you're
Yeah.
probably easiest to find on LinkedIn. So for
Yeah,
now, people can
definitely.
find you on LinkedIn. Fedden
Yes.
Mingawat. I think there'll probably be
Yes.
only one of you anyways. Like me, it's only one
Yeah,
of me. My name
you
combination is
know,
LinkedIn is just one.
you know. No,
Okay,
I appreciate this opportunity, Lisa. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. I'm feeling a little bit strengthened on my end, and I hope that students, graduates, even young professionals,
Mm,
pull out a lot, pull out a lot. And as you said, not just pulling it out for your own development, but pulling out stuff that provokes you to even
mm,
think beyond yourself in your career, beyond,
yes.
to how you can actually be of service beyond the traditional way of helping people legally. So thanks, Fedden, and thank you everyone for listening. And I hope you return to the episode. And I hope you reach out to our guests and you have conversations because that's what it's about as well.
Mm.
We don't want to have events and superstars. We want you to talk to us and talk to our guests, and who knows where that connection can take you. So thank you for listening and thank you for
All right, bye.